吹き運営はとどまるこの一矢で十分亡者再臨亡者再臨風が吹き運営はとどまるこの一矢で十分亡者再臨
Well, I hope you enjoyed that little showcase. Those were some damage per screenshots with full supports buffing him. Obviously, it's not representative of his average damage on a team in rotations. And this is just the build that I used on him. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And for the rest of the video, I'm going to be using like a 40-80 crit ratio on 4-piece banditry with 2-piece fleet. I'll show all the builds at the end of each run, so I'm not scamming you. So we can take a good look at how much Luocha E6 contributes overall to team damage as well as the debuffing. So we'll get onto that after we take a look at his Eidolons. And if you enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. So let's get to it. This is going to be a bit of a longer video, so feel free to stick around for as long as you want. I'm just going to be testing two teams. This first one is a Clara Hypercarry. Clara and Luocha kind of make an insane immortal duo, just from all the counterattacking and then healing your team. I don't play perfectly, of course. None of these runs are meant to be like my best run. It's to showcase an average, roughly what you can expect. Realistic scenario. Well, I say realistic, but it's an E6 Luocha, so anything is pretty crazy. You don't start the battle with his E6 res down, of course, because you don't have his ult. And on this side, you definitely want to be using it against the Mara Struck. So I try to time my Yukong ult whenever I have Clara's counter or enhanced counters up, but I do fail here. I didn't really calculate this, and she doesn't get hit, and she doesn't get the crit damage boosts. So a bit unfortunate, but doesn't really impact the run. Yukong is also a really good teammate for Luocha in general because she buffs imaginary damage innately with her A4 trace, I believe. And Yukong, if you slap a planetary rendezvous on her, she buffs your team's imaginary damage even further. I think at S5 combined with her A4, it's total team 36% extra imaginary damage, which is just insane if you're running mono imaginary. And that's pretty much like giving all your imaginary characters an extra planar orb, which is crazy. I know I just said imaginary like 30 times, but it is what it is. The other thing is, one of Clara's main weaknesses is survivability, because she's always getting attacked, but with Luocha, especially the auto heal, she manages quite well. As you can see, this is a pretty comfy run. My Clara is, I would say, peak E0 Clara, because she also has quite a high superimposed light cone, because I kept losing to her light cone. It doesn't increase her damage by too much. Her Eidolons definitely increase it more, but it definitely helps a lot. So we're just trying to see how much Luocha helps the team. And I haven't really talked about that yet, but it's sort of like hidden, right? I think theory crafting has shown that an E6 Luocha with his E1 attack % boost field up gives your entire team about 1.4 times more damage. Of course, he himself does a good amount of damage. His ult multiplier is actually higher than Jing Yuan's multiplier. Though I am kind of memeing because, of course, Jing Yuan has more external buffs as well as buffs from his traces that improve it, whereas Luocha doesn't really. You kind of have to use supports. But I'll talk a bit more about Luocha's Eidolons now that I've had some time to play with it. Of course, I do plan on fully maxing him out and getting him 4-piece banditry and 2-piece fleet. This way, not only am I maximizing his own damage, of course I could run, what do you call it, Space Sealing Station, but I do think the team-wide 8% extra attack, as well as the HP, really gives him more of a tankiness as well, and increases his heals. Well, actually, Space Sealing would increase his heals more, but I'll figure that out. One really cool thing about his E6 is it applies the res down before it hits, which, thank God, it would be pretty unfortunate if it didn't, and his own attack doesn't get the res down, but it does. Otherwise, you would never be able to use his ult on an enemy when it has res down, unless they're like stun locked here. But yeah, so Kafka goes down quite easily. You see my team getting kind of low in HP. My Yuan and Yukong are very squishy. Even my Clara is not fully built, so there is that. I will, like, once we get into a later game, Luocha is going to be overhealing anything, and he's not even on a healer set. Like, your E0 Luocha is probably healing more than mine right now, which is funny. So yeah, S4, something irreplaceable. I keep losing to that, or not losing, on the standard banner, but it is what it is. 4-piece Wild Wheat, streetwise, is a lot better, of course. I do have 2-piece Salsoda with a pretty cracked orb on Clara, E0. So I'd say her build is pretty good. She's obviously got a long way to go. My friend has a cracked Clara that I wanted to use as a showcase, but alas, I didn't. Traces, of course, again, I'm going to max them out. Relics, I want to get a good 4-piece banditry. My only good piece so far is the gloves. Everything else is kind of copium, but I'm going to take it. This is pretty good. And energy regen is going to be hard to get. And there you go. One cool thing about Luocha's E4, though, is when the field is active, it actually counts. So I'll actually scroll over it in a second here. When the field is active, enemies become weakened, right? This counts as a debuff. So if you have any 4-piece banditry users, they get the first part of 10% crit rate because enemies are debuffed, which is a cool interaction. It's pretty niche, but it's a nice bonus. I've just been thinking about all these unique gameplay interactions with his Eidolons. This is my Yuan. Relics are nothing special. I'll be farming the new set for her. She is E6. Yukong, I started building her. Glad I did. She's perfect. She's a perfect pair with Luocha in his teams. Planetary Rendezvous. This one is really good. Legendary damage bonus. And you'll see here, she's on 4-piece Quantum, which is actually quite good. It wasn't that good against the Kafka fight, but against Quantum weak enemies, of course, it's way stronger. This is a good ER rope on Salsoda. And I did get her E6. Well, I'd be surprised if I didn't get her E6 after E6 Luocha. But yeah, let's go on to the next team. Okay, we are using the exact same Luocha, Yukong, and Yuan core, but this time with Jing Yuan as the Hypercarry DPS. So let's see if Luocha's 1.4% team damage increase can push Jing Yuan over the edge. And it does seem like this core is really strong, at least having Luocha and Yukong. I don't know if there will be a 5-star that eventually power creeps Yukong, but right now, at least at E6, unfortunately, she does feel quite strong. I do like using them, and Yukong buffs up Luocha quite a bit too, so he does some damage. But yeah, it's all about using Yukong at good times whenever Lightning Lord's about to strike, and Luocha, it's all about timing his ult so that you get the perfect amount of enemies, or you want to time it so that you get the most amount of enemies hit with his res down. So here we're gonna manually proc sanction mode, and this way we get, what do you call it? We get everyone here on effect res down. He also takes out 2 of the ads, which is great, and then he heals up. Oh, I just love him. He's so good. one of the main reasons, look at that, 250k. It's pretty good. One of the main reasons I really went for E6 Luocha is because I feel like he's an all-in-one character. He just does it all. Skill point positive. He never, like, occasionally you'll use a skill, but 95% of the time to near 100% in some fights, he's skill point positive, only using basics. And he also does pretty good damage, of course, with his ult and effect res down at E6. He can weaken enemies at E4. E1 also gives a slight harmony buff of 20% attack when the field is up. He just has it all. He's got CC res, he's got cleanse, he's imaginary, which is a great typing, and his healing style is great. He's got that 2-turn auto heal on 50% or less HPs automatically, and it restores energy. So you'll see some silliness. He gets so many ults when you rotate him correctly, and he gets hit, so it does help a lot. Here we go. And then he just pretty much uses burst or ult immediately. What else makes him really good? But yeah, he's like a harmony sub DPS at E6, and of course the best healer in the game with his life steal field. So I definitely do not recommend going for any E6 characters. I don't think any Eidolons are necessary or required, but for me, I did find lots of value in it, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I don't regret a thing. You can see here, when you do play with Luocha, you kind of have to think about when to time your ults so that you get the heal, right? If I didn't heal there, Yukong would be dead. Like, there are a lot of little things that you want to optimize when you're using him. Unless, of course, you're building him full heals, which, again, you guys will be healing more than mine, even when I max him out, which is kind of funny to think, but I do like having him as a hybrid damage dealer. Actually, he's being built full damage dealer, basically. It's just the only thing that changes is he is E6. So he actually contributes like a fair amount of damage. It's nothing crazy, of course, but and always making sure he uses ult in front of a teammate's ult so that they get the buff, and he also buffs his own. Yeah, lots of little things here. I would have made another clip with Seele, but I've done enough Luocha, Seele. I've done enough Seele videos. I've done my Jing videos, so let's give Clara and Jing Yuan some spotlight. So that's that. 38 or 2 cycle clear with Jing Yuan. Pretty good. Of course, very overkill. None of the other builds changed, so we're just going to take a look at Jing Yuan. He can definitely use a lot more work. Not his relics, though. Well, his relics can definitely be improved, but you'll see he's actually quite good. He can get some more upgrades here. Attack percent here, level 80. But he does have some pretty cracked relics, this one especially. This one's good. This one was a four-liner, but didn't roll too well. This one's really good. This one could have been better, but still very good. And lots of speed on this one. So he is E2. I got 2 of him early when I was rolling for Ting Yuns, but again, E0 Jing Yuan is perfectly fine. Anyway, thank you for watching to the end. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.